And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Welcome back to the TMCJ podcast. We are on episode 37, another number that has absolutely no meaning to me. Opening up. We are recording this maybe a little bit later than usual.
That was a subtle dig at me in case you missed that.
Oh, man. Sorry, I had to.
It's what time did we what time did I head to bed last night?
I don't know. I went to bed at around 11 my time, which would have been 4 a.m. your
4.
time?
Yeah, 4 a.m.
Anyway, I have two topics this week that I definitely wanted to talk about. One of them is something more funny, but also something I'm going to have to be a little bit careful about how I say it because of YouTube.
Okay. Well, let's get the serious one out of the way first, I think.
No, the serious one that's the one that's gonna take a long time to talk about. So
yeah, that's why I think we should have the funny one for the
funny one for the end.
A light-hearted note.
Fine. So the serious one is something that has annoyed me ever since I was in college and just after.
Mm-hmm.
There's a tendency, and the reason I'm bringing it up now, and I don't think I've brought it up too much in the past, is because I heard a term that I think just perfectly encapsulates this annoying tendency. In modern discourse, there's a lot of very high scientific concepts that get thrown around and discussed by usually laymen, people who don't have some sort of a scientific background. That's fine, so they defer to experts. But what you sort of see happen is people just finding experts that they like, who say things that they agree with, that fit with what they think is right, and then just automatically defaulting that worldview and treating any sort of questioning of that view as heresy. And the term that I've heard used to describe this is scientism,
Yeah.
It's almost become people are acting with religious fervor around these sorts of things. So, to lead off with, and I feel like this is one of the reasons that it annoys me, I am not a scientist. I'm an engineer. We use similar methods, but it's very different. So, in science, in a scientific experiment, science should not give you a worldview. Science doesn't tell you what you should do, it tells you what is in front of you, or at least the best approximation of what is. So basic scientific method, you come up with a hypothesis,
Yeah.
You design an experiment to test that hypothesis, you execute that experiment, then you analyze the data, and then subsequent to that, other scientists will challenge that theory and try to repeat that same result by doing the same method and they might vary a couple variables, but they're going to try to make it repeatable. And if it's found to be repeatable, then it's a generally accepted theory. It's rare that anything gets really proven in science. It's just a very acceptable theory. That's why evolution is still referred to as a theory, because it can't be proven, because we don't have a time machine, and we haven't tested it over a long enough period of time to observe evolution happening. But with this sort of this kind of attitude that I've seen, this scientism attitude, it seems like what people do is it really just boils down to them doing a Google search, finding a article written by somebody else who isn't a scientist, who read the title of a study and then made some assumptions on it. And
I assume there's a particular example that you saw recently which has aggravated you.
There are a few that I've seen over time. One of the most prevalent ones that you see a lot with is climate change. I mean, it seems fairly evident that the Earth's climate is changing. And there's tons of theories out there as to why it's happening. The one that is accepted by most of the lay population is that carbon emissions have caused the Earth to warm up. So you're seeing warmer areas in some places. You're seeing drier areas in some places. You're seeing wetter areas. You're seeing changes in potentially in sea level.
The carbon is damaging the ozone bubble, and so the negative rays of the sun are more getting through.
It's actually the
ice caps.
It's actually the opposite. It's adding to that greenhouse layer. What you're thinking of, there was a chemical that was put out in like the 60s and 70s, and it was used in all kinds of like aerosol cans and things, and it was actually damaging the ozone layer, which let in more radiation. But that has actually been resolved. That chemical was, and there were shit. I accidentally just paused my recording. There's just going to be a blip there. I'm gonna need to remember to fix that in editing. But basically, they damaged the ozone layer. But since that has mostly been fixed, they've banned all the chemicals that actually caused that. The argument for climate change, or what it was used to be called global warming, was that these carbon gases were creating a thicker greenhouse layer, which would cause more heat to get trapped inside the atmosphere, which would cause global temperatures to rise, which would cause icebergs to melt, which would cause sea levels to rise. Mm-hmm. That's the theory in a nutshell. And I do insist on referring to it as a theory because, again, this is something that needs to be measured over a very long period of time to be proven. And proven is a very different thing in like an actual scientific study than what most people think it means. So, and I guess I don't even disagree that, with that theory. I think that there's tons of evidence for it, and people should take that into account when they're making decisions. But my problem is the religious fervor around it. When you have people who, the moment they hear somebody say anything different, like not even say anything different, just say that, okay, what degree is this happening to? Can we measure this somehow? How quickly is it happening? What degree do humans have to do with this? What degree is this to do with solar orbit? Once people start like questioning and try to do actual science, you get a lot of lay people who believe very strongly in this, acting with a sort of religious fervor against it. And I guess that's what annoys me about it. That's one example, but there's plenty of them out there.
Right, so what do you think should be done, really?
I don't... See, this is what I don't know, because it's in the cultural zeitgeist now. It's out there. People are kind of enamored with this idea because I think to a degree it makes you feel... It's sort of like if you go back into... even just a couple hundred years ago, or not even that long ago, if you were a very pious person, if you were a very religious person, like, it makes you feel good that you know the scriptures, you know how to be like a good Christian, a good Hindu, a good Muslim, whatever. It makes you like feel good to know that you're in touch with what the right and moral way to be is. And I feel
I don't know about that.
Well, what?
I don't know about that, because there's a lot of outliers who feel good in themselves for not believing the truths of the media, kind of thing. And I mean, at the end of the day, no one wants to live like China. No, I'm not joking. I mean, surrounded, I think it's China, where they have like warnings before you leave the house every day, whether it's too toxic the air that you can't actually like go outside.
Yeah, air pollution and stuff like that. Yeah, they do. There was actually, there have been a few maps since the lockdowns have started looking at how different, like they showed a map of pollution over like the Beijing area, and how it, like when they were essentially restricting all travel and locking people inside, how the pollution levels drastically decreased, and it was staggering. It's staggering how polluted the air actually is. But that also kind of feeds into the same sort of sentiment. I'm not saying that people believe it blindly and it makes them feel good. I'm saying that people, when they believe in something that they truly, truly think is right, and they take action, that supports that belief, that is in service of that belief, it makes them feel good. And I think that's
Yeah.
what this comes down to, is whether it's the example you just gave is another perfect example of this same phenomenon. You know, there are people out there who like just absolutely, no matter what comes out on the news, they're like, oh, that's bullshit, it's all lies, it's all fakery. And that's also an irrational and sort of just faith-based kind of worldview. You're not, they're not basing that on any sort of, you know, inquiry or evidence, or if they are, not complete, a complete data set. I think it's good to remain skeptical, but it's also a bad thing if you go too far in the other direction, you know? Maybe it's a little too vague, but that's just, I don't like. So the thing that spurred me off to think of this topic was I was actually reading an article, and I just want to read, because I still have it up. I want to read the opening remark in that article, because I think it kind of very neatly encapsulates.
Okay. Where did you find this article, by the way?
I'll send it to you after this. It's pretty good.
Well, I mean, just so that people at home could be like, okay, this is where the source was.
I don't remember. I copy and pasted the opening bit. It was just something I found. But it's just, here's the quote. Science tells you that urine is a good electrical conductor. Whether you would want to urinate on an electric fence or not is a matter of political opinion. So,
Yeah.
essentially the idea is, like, science tells you what is, but it doesn't tell you what you ought to do. Your own internal, like, interpretation of data will tell you that. So, like, you know, you're standing on a railway track and there's a train coming. Science will tell you that the train's coming, how fast it's coming, what'll happen if it hits you, and, you know, all that other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You, in your own personal decision-making, have to decide whether it's a good idea to stand on the tracks or not. You know, nothing scientific is going to make that decision for you. It's going to tell you about it. So I just, I don't know, it just, I get the impression now, reading the news and, like, listening to, you know, people talk about, you know, events and news and kind of geopolitics, and it just seems like there's a fairly large dearth of critical thinking out there. Like, I'm not saying question everything, but just, like, don't blindly accept everything.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, just something that's got it, because I remember saying something similar to this back right after I graduated college. I was commenting to a friend, and she just didn't believe me, or didn't think that this was true at all. And I was saying, like, it just feels like, you know, science is becoming a religion for atheists.
Right.
Because, like, it almost like, since they don't have, like, a religious faith or any sort of, like, that sort of thing, they're almost filling that gap in their mind with science. They're just blindly believing these things. And this is something, that's the other thing that annoyed me, is the idea that if, you know, most scientists agree on something, then it's probably true. And
I mean, these are things that we have to believe in to an extent, though. Like, we have to, absolutely, because, I mean, let's say we're buying a new computer and we have no idea how computers are put together. I mean, you know how to put together a computer, don't you?
Yeah.
But you don't know how to put together the microchips and the integral parts within the pieces of a computer.
No.
So we have to just believe
that
they will run.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with science. We have to believe that, I don't know, some things, experiments you can do with yourself, like, you know, seeing the event horizon to believe the world isn't flat.
Yeah.
But a lot of it, yeah, we do kind of need to just see the articles and say, okay, this is something I believe in.
Mm-hmm.
Not in a necessarily religious way, just in a I need to get by from a day-to-day basis, so I will have to use these things that I don't necessarily know how they work, but they work.
That's a very fair point. I guess the problem I have is when people in argument, like say I'll go back to the climate change example because it's one it always seems to be out there being debated.
Yeah.
But the debates tend to boil down to one person, typically, from the ones if you don't go to, like, normally they don't just shove two crazies in a room. It's usually two people with different perspectives. But the like, I can't remember who I was watching, but it was two people discussing it, and somebody brought up, like, the fact that there are alternate explanations for some of the aspects of climate change, and the other person kind of went into, like, their first defense was, yes, but 95% of climate scientists believe this. And it's like, okay, what do the other 5% believe? That's not how, science doesn't work on consensus. It works on data.
Yeah. Obviously, there's the classic, the theory that we weren't at the center of the universe. That was one man believed that for
exactly.
a while.
Yeah, what was it, Galileo?
I believe so, yeah. It's in this day and age, I feel like it's possibly less likely because I think back in the day, religion and science were more closely joined at the hip, and it was kind of heresy to say that we weren't the center of the universe because God created the Earth and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But no, I realize where you come from.
But yeah, I agree. It should be less prevalent now. But yeah, it just because the idea that could be used as a defense annoys me because it doesn't make any sense. You can have 100 people in a room and 95 of them can be wrong about something. You've also got what's called confirmation bias. Like they've done. I remember. Again, maybe I'm being guilty of this too, because I read about this research. I can't remember the name of the study, but they basically put a person in a room, several different people. They did this quite a few times, and only one of the people in the room was actually being experimented on. The other, 5 or 6, were all actors. Mm-hmm. And so they would show a picture of several lines, right? And they would ask which line is the longest. And they would have all of the actors answer immediately the wrong answer.
Yeah.
And a good chunk of the time, I can't remember what the percentage was, the person, even though they could clearly see that it wasn't the longest one, they would answer the wrong answer along with everyone else. So I think that there is an element of that, is that when enough people seem to be agreeing on something, there's a ripple effect where people... the next person comes along, it's like, oh, well, Bob, Steve, and Charlie over here already did this experiment, and they found this. So, I'm just going to, go through and not look too close at the data. There is an element of that. I mean, that's what caused the famous space shuttle explosion in the U.S., the Challenger explosion. It turns out that there were actually a few engineers who noticed it was caused by a faulty O-ring in one of the pipes. And O-ring being a gasket that you have in between two pipes that are joined by a clamp, or at least that's what they are in my industry. I'm assuming they're the same for that because a lot of the technology is the same. But they knew about this issue. They knew it was a potential problem, but because there was so many people around them that were all just like, yeah, no, everything's fine. We're NASA. We do this every day. That we're good at this. They just didn't say anything. And then, the shuttle blew up. So,
yeah.
I'm not saying I have an answer on this. It's just a topic that has been on my mind for years, and I found that little that word really encapsulated it for me, because it does seem like, not always and not everyone, because some people are just like you said, they don't have time for it. They're getting by with their daily life, and they read this like, oh, okay, just they believe it because it takes a little bit less time.
Yeah,
it doesn't factor into your life, so you don't need to think about it too critically.
Yeah, sadly, we can't all be scientists.
Yeah, there's that actually. Your example there reminded me of a quote from the very first Sherlock Holmes story, when Holmes is just first meeting Watson. they mentioned something about the solar system, and Holmes just kind of says something offhand, dismissively, and it turns out that like there's a point where it comes out that Sherlock Holmes just didn't know anything about the solar system. He didn't know that the Earth went around the sun. He didn't know anything about Jupiter and the moons of Jupiter or anything like that. And then Watson was like just flabbergasted why he didn't know anything about it. And Holmes said something along the lines of, I do my best to keep my head clear of anything that doesn't have to do with my work. So basically it's like the solar system being like that is never going to come into his line of work as a detective. So why should he bother learning anything about it?
Yeah. Speaking of, that was one of the questions in my pub quiz the other day.
Yeah.
Which is the hottest planet in the solar system?
Venus.
Yeah. Well, so my group all said Mars. I was like, no. If you're talking about distance to the sun, it's Mercury.
Yeah.
And like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. And yeah, it's Venus.
Yeah, Mars doesn't even have an atmosphere. It's cold as fuck. Well, it has an atmosphere, but not much of one.
Right.
But yeah, Venus, because it has that thick atmosphere, it traps a ton of heat.
Yeah. I got savagely attacked for getting that wrong.
I mean, you were more right than they were.
I mean, yeah. But the quizmaster himself.
Yeah, it's like Earth is hotter than Mars.
And there's a question where he started reading out the question. He was like, during the filming of this film, someone broke 2 toes on the set, and I was like, oh, it's Harrison Ford in Star Wars.
That was his leg. He broke his leg.
Well, yeah. And I was like, oh, bam, I've got it, hell yeah. And he was like, let me finish the question. In Lord of the Rings. Fuck.
Damn.
Oh, yeah. I know some person I'd never heard of.
Okay. All right, well, I don't want to belabor that first topic too much, but I think I've said basically all I need to on it. It's something that if I think about it more and I think of more concrete examples, I'll bring it up again sometime. But
we have 8 minutes for the jolly topic.
That's true. So this one it's just something that I found amusing, and it's about Harry Potter of all things.
Okay.
First of all, I never read the books. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I watched all the movies.
Same.
And I was, and this is where I'm gonna have to be tricky about how I describe this. There's somebody I was watching a YouTube video and somebody made this argument and it caught me off guard and I was laughing so hard at it. So in the U.S. there's a certain amendment that guarantees our use of certain weapons. Let's say,
Right.
Somebody made the argument that Harry Potter is very much pro that standpoint. Because if you think about it, all the kids from a young age they carry a weapon around with them, their wand. They're trained in self-defense and expected to, take care of themselves and be self-reliant with their own self-defense. And in fact, in the 5th movie, I think, where that woman comes in and is trying to take that away and doesn't let them train in self-defense anymore.
Yeah, Miss Umbridge.
Yeah, they start like an underground militia and start training themselves in self-defense, and it's just like, if you think about it in that perspective, it's like Harry Potter is like a fairly libertarian movie.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, the school only teaches things revolving around magic as well. They don't actually teach you any life skills.
Yeah, well, I think
certainly no science.
Yeah, well, they teach you the science of magic. What do you call potions?
Alchemy?
Well, yeah, but it's a science. It's a magical science.
Yeah. That's why I said alchemy and not chemistry.
Yeah. I don't know. It was just a take that amused me profusely when I heard it.
Yeah. I guess so. I mean, are there any, creative aspects to being magical in those films?
I think so, because I feel like because they could make what was it, in that same movie when the twin gingers, they decide to just quit school because everything's so like getting so crazy there, and they just go off and start their own business. Again, very libertarian of them. They use spells to make like all these crazy like fireworks and light shows outside the school and stuff.
That's true.
So I think
they are kind of the like an engineer kind of the Wizarding world, because they're like coming up with new patents and things.
Yeah, and like when in the later movies they have a shop where they're selling all these like crazy doodads and things, mostly for pranks and stuff, but
yeah,
it's all these cool little ideas. I feel like there is, and probably if I read the books I'd know more of these. I know there are people that listen to this who have read the books, so I might be getting an earful later. But there's, I think there is that. It's interesting thinking about that. Because if taken from that perspective, like, the kids get their first wand at 11. Like...
Yeah.
And, jeez.
Well, I mean, kids hold knives before 11.
That's true. I mean, yeah,
for cooking purposes. I mean, not for stabbing.
Oh yeah, I learned to cook when I was 6, and yeah, I helped my mom like cut. She was hovering over to me, make sure I didn't like slice my hand off. But
exactly. So I mean, it's not like kids in our world don't have access to dangerous tools.
It's true.
It's just
true. And I guess
they're not given their own ones.
They have to be trained to use the wand properly too, because at first they can just barely like, zap someone. Or I think in the first movie, the what's her name, Hermione. She like managed to like repair some basic shit.
Some basic level 1 D&D spells.
Yeah, exactly. I guess it's only when they're like in their mid-teens they start to learn the crazy stuff where they can like, knock someone out. They learn like a taser spell.
Thing is, the wands don't actually change though, do they? So
no, I think
in theory they could like say the wrong word while they've got their hand on their wand and like combust.
It's true. Yeah, I guess that's a good point. Like, because there is a scene where the ginger that's Harry Potter's friend, Ron. He like tries to do some nonsense spell that his brother taught him, and he tries to change the color of his rat, and it just zaps it in the ass, and it runs away. But in theory, it could like blow up in his face.
Yeah. I mean, it could do anything.
Oh god, it's magic. I don't know.
Didn't know we were doing Equestrian Bronte.
Oh god. Equestrian. Oh, I'm having so much fun with that game.
My voice is so sore.
So sore?
So sore, and I think it's because we recorded that episode the other day.
Yeah. We should... Maybe that's something we can talk to in the media segment today, because Equestrian Bronte has been like such a fun game. We're talking about, by the way, a playthrough that is going up on the YouTube channel right now, The Life and Suffering of Sir Bronte. It's a roguelike visual novel RPG. It's a weird combination. It's essentially boils down to Blue and I reading aloud and making decisions for this character as he goes through the story and seeing what happens.
Yeah. We had our first real debate argument this week.
Yeah. And it ended with it going my way, but a promise that the next time we have a contentious decision, that the decision will be weighted in your favor.
Yeah. And I still think you're wrong, by the way.
Especially
for the decision you made afterwards.
Well, so that wasn't my decision. We were both 50-50. Well, you said you were 50.
What was your decision?
You said you were 55-45 on that one, and I said I was 50-50, and so we just rolled a die. That was the die's decision. But I agree. The die chose wrong, because we ended up fucking our father over, and that caused the chaotic series of events after that. This is just
ourselves over.
This is just us talking about something that no one listening to this is going to have any idea about, unless you watch the YouTube channel.
Well, I was thinking the other day, maybe we should just put it up on Spotify, because it's not like we need the visuals for that.
That's a good point. I mean, we could actually, yeah. There will be some confusion when we start talking about Carlo fuck grabbing.
What's that to go? We don't even talk about his appearance, really.
Oh, I'm Carlo. Because that's you know what? We're coming up on the end of the segment, so I'll end it off by just telling that little snippet of a story. Some of the characters have interesting names. We came across this rather portly judge with a Brian Blessed beard, who had the unfortunate name Carlo Fuckgraben, spelled F-O-C-K-E-G-R-A-B-E-N, I think.
Yeah.
And we couldn't continue with the story for a solid couple minutes because we were just laughing hysterically every time his name came up. It was one of those situations where you start laughing and then you're making yourself laugh by laughing. Oh man,
it was a vicious cycle,
which
I could not get out of.
Oh yeah. All right, let's end segment 1 there. Thank you all for listening. This is going to be the end of segment 1 of the TMCJ podcast, and you will hear us again momentarily for segment 2. Welcome back to the TMCJ podcast. We are on segment 2, our media segment, and we broke the streak. This week we did not have a movie night. But Blue has assured me that he is well-versed in media this week. He has many things to talk about. And
partially it's your fault, to be honest, because a game that I've just started playing, I only noticed it because it was on the channel. You played it for a demo, a 5-second attention span. And yeah, a game.
A lot of references to the YouTube channel this week.
Say again?
A lot of references to the YouTube channel this week.
Was there?
In the first segment, I was referring back to Equestrian Bronte.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, so I've been playing a game called Hirulun, which I don't know how to pronounce it. I assume it's a Spanish word, because I think the developers are Spanish.
Believe me, it's not Spanish.
Is it not?
It doesn't sound Spanish.
I know it doesn't sound Spanish, but I don't know.
Well, I don't know. Okay, maybe I'm not the best person.
It sounds Nordic, but I don't know.
I can speak Spanish passably. It didn't strike me as Spanish. It actually struck me as like being Asian.
Really?
But maybe I'm wrong.
Okay. Maybe I've played too much Valheim, but yeah, it sounds kind of Norse.
I didn't mean to derail it.
Yeah, so at the moment it's only a demo. They've got one map that you can play on it, and it's basically a speed run thing where you're just trying to complete the map as fast as you possibly can. You pick up orbs to stop the timer briefly, and you just want the best time. So
yeah,
I saw Kaiser's video on it, and I was like, holy shit, I can do way better than that. So I got the game.
Well, so first of all, I played the game. I played through the mission twice. I skipped the tutorial, so I was the first run. I was trying to figure out what the hell the buttons did.
Mm-hmm.
And once I got that worked out, like my first run was atrocious time. It was like 4 minutes and something to get through the track. I say this to give context to what Blue's about to say. The second run I did, I got it just under 2 minutes. So once I'd figured out the controls, I was able to like cut my time in half.
Yeah.
Now, Blue Bear...
well, and Alicia will attest to this. I think my first run I came in about 1 minute 50.
Which was right around what I got in my second run.
Yeah, it was like 8 seconds faster, which is, let's face it, what I was really trying to do. And yeah, but then I was like, okay, I keep playing to try and get better, because I don't generally play many like racing games. They're not really my thing, but it reminded me greatly of CSGO surf maps.
Oh yeah, I remember those. I fucking blew it. Jake and Kevin tried to get me to play those like this was before I even met you. Like trying to play those. I was awful at them.
There's definitely a fucking trick you have to get. Like, it took me days to work out how surfing really worked on that game, and I was still not brilliant at it. I could do some of the maps just about, but not in a good time and not efficiently.
Hmm.
But no, so yeah, I've been playing this Hirulun over and over and over again, and I realised that the the leaderboard that I was looking at was not like a local leaderboard; it was the world leaderboard. So there are only about 80 people that have played the game so far that have got times on there. Kaiser, I
Nice.
think.
That means I'm in the top 100.
Yeah, you're in the top 26. I think you're 26th.
Oh shit. Okay.
And yeah, I've been trying to get like at least a podium position, right? I think currently I'm on about 5th on the leaderboard of the world.
Pretty good.
Yeah, well, it's taken a lot of. So if you go on there like this week, you'll see at the top of the leaderboard it says Kaiser because you got the fastest time overall in the world for Monday. And then Tuesday is when I started playing, and ever since Tuesday it's just Blue Bear. Because I've been coming on like on my lunch times and trying to get a faster time.
And I've actually watched him play this. I want to try it again because I did it basically for a video because the 5-second attention span series, typically what happens is I'll pick up a game demo, play it, and if I like it, I'll add it to my wish list. If not, I'll mock it relentlessly and move on. But I haven't actually gone back to this game and played it more because the game isn't actually out yet. It's still just a demo.
So also I was trying to work out how it's like I got to a point where I was getting 1 minute 15, I think, constantly. Like that was the fastest time I could get. I was like, how the hell is anyone getting faster? I looked on their Twitter page and it was like I was watched a video of one person playing the map and they like skipped half of the map from a jump pad. They like just jumped up like past a fucking tower. And I was like, how the hell did he jump that high? So I got in contact with the devs on their Discord. I left a message.
Yeah, by the way, he sent me like these messages while I was at work, and like I'm like, holy shit, Blue is in their Discord. What the fuck is happening? He's taking this shit really seriously.
Anyone can join the Discord. There's plenty of people in there. And yeah, I dropped a message saying like, love the game so far. I was curious when it's going to be released, and how in the hell do people get the times that fast? And basically came back to me and said, no, the jump pads haven't been edited. Because I thought the jump pads may have been like updated to jump less high or something.
Yeah.
Right, now the jump pads haven't been updated or anything. Nothing's changed, so the leaderboard doesn't need updating. But maybe try boosting whilst on a jump pad. I was like, huh, okay.
That little soft hint.
That little, he even put a winky face, like the sly winky face after that sentence. I was like, ooh, exposed. Yeah, and now I'm getting like, I can't remember what my last time was. It was like 45 seconds or something.
Well, when I watched you had gotten 42.
Right, 42. Yeah, I think that must be my high score at the moment. But I still, to this day, have no idea how someone has 28 seconds to do that map. Like, that's the current first place in the world.
Going for that hardcore.
Yeah, and I would love to see the fucking the clip of it, the video of it, because like I even checked the speedrun website, speedrun.com, and Hirulun's not up there yet. And there's nothing on YouTube, there's nothing on the Twitter page, nothing. And so I'm just like, I don't know. Am I just like not taking the optimal path? Is there a corner I could be cutting slightly sooner? Yeah.
There really does have to be, like, it's probably one of those things where people have practiced it to perfection.
Well, it's definitely got to the point where I don't know if you noticed while you were watching me play, but every time I missed the first jump, and it's a pretty narrow first jump to go between two like panels.
Yeah, you were like, oh fuck,
just reset. Yeah, there's no point in continuing the run because you need every little millisecond.
I've played games where I've had that exact feeling and done that exact thing, but I did not get there, with this game.
Yeah.
Although, now that you've been playing it quite a bit, I think I will go back to it again and actually try to beat my time on the demo.
Yeah, I mean, really cool. I've already spent, how long on it? Almost 3 hours. on a game where essentially the content of it is about 3 minutes long, if you're a bit slow.
Yeah, I spent about a half hour on it playing the demo for the video that I recorded. But it was a lot of fun. I sang its praises in that video too, because I found myself like, I wanted a game that I could just jump into and have some fun with, and damn it, that was the game.
Yeah, you even like started off when it was like a Spanish text and then English answers, wasn't it? And you had a bit of a laugh at that, but then from that point on, you're like, "Oh shit, this is actually really good."
Well, I had a laugh because it was like they gave a warning in the beginning, and the warning was in Spanish.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like they translated it in English below that. The warning was like, it was something like "Quiero poder el tutorial." It was like, "Do you want to play the tutorial?" And I was, but below that, it just said "Answer yes or no" in English, and I'm like,
it's like those signs in Wales.
But I can. It was kind of just amusing to me because I speak Spanish. I can do that.
Yeah, so like the signs in Wales where it's like at the top, it's all written in Welsh and it has the English translation below it, and then sometimes it just has like English translation here written in English.
One of my favorite things that they actually do that up in my friend went to college in Montreal, and driving through Quebec, the French province in Canada, for those that don't know, they'll do the same thing. Like all the signs are in English and French, but the French will be like huge and the English will be tiny.
Yeah,
it's just funny.
But sorry,
I don't speak French. I have no idea, and I have no desire to learn French.
But yeah, no, loving the game so far. They don't know when it's going to be out yet. Hang on, I might be able to actually quote them directly.
I do think I am going to buy that game when it comes out, because it was one of the first games I've played in quite a while that I jumped right in, and there was no feeling of like, oh, I don't really like this, or oh, this is kind of weird. It was just like, this is fun. This was immediate fun.
Yeah.
We're in no way sponsored by this game, by the way.
No, not at all. I did this purely out of like wanting to help them. Yeah, so the actual quote that they gave about the release, it's still too soon to tell anything, but we're speaking with various publishers about it at the moment.
Okay. And just like to end this off, like what the name of the game was Hirulun?
Yes, it's a very weird word.
Hirilun, correct?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay.
Yeah. And
also, it's on this podcast YouTube channel.
I'm eager to see the story mode when that comes out as well. That'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to playing it. I think I will buy it, and I know this will be a point where the two of us compete bitterly and viciously.
Oh yeah.
When it actually comes out.
So, shall I move on to the other media topic for the week?
Let's move on.
Okay, so something I was just watching over lunch while between segments 1 and 2. I was a bit bored, so I was like, let's check out Netflix, see if anything new has come up there. And there's a very fun, amusing manga turned anime on Netflix now. I want to get the exact name so I don't fuck it up. I believe it's called The Way of the House Husband. And it's about a ex-Yakuza like boss who went and killed 10 other Yakuza houses in the space of one night.
Yeah.
And then, have you heard of this, by the way?
I have not heard of it, but when you gave me the premise, my first reaction was to turn around and go like, "Ha! Gay!"
Well, okay. Right.
But now that you've brought the Yakuza into it, I'm like, okay, I'm interested
it's like
again.
This really badass, kind of slightly scary dude who's now a house husband. He looks after a cat. And just everything he does is like Yakuza-esque in design, but it's all household related.
Have you seen? Oh God, what was this anime called? It was called like Maid Guy.
No.
Okay, so it's I won't say it. I'll let you describe the anime fully because this actually sounds pretty interesting. But Maid Guy was an anime that came out when I was in college, so this would have been like 2010, 2011 kind of time frame. And the premise was this family had a maid, and it was just basically this, like, 6.5 foot tall, like, dude who's, like, built like a fucking brick shit house, but he's in like an apron and dressed like a fucking maid.
Yeah, it's
and
not
just,
that fancy.
No matter what this, yeah, but no matter what the situation, like, it would always just be like, huh! And he would just, like, so there was a situation where, like, a printer wasn't working or something, and it was ridiculous, over the top. He took the USB cable and, like, plugged it into his own ear, and then was like, and just, like...
Right, that sounds a bit more out of the realm of reality than this, a little bit.
It was completely over the top, like, kind of comedy, sort of shit.
And this is definitely a comedy anime as well.
But the one I'm talking about was more fantastical. It was more like just, random, off-the-wall, crazy shit would happen. But it was the same sort of idea. It was this big, burly, manly dude who was the maid. And the anime was called Maid Guy. I haven't seen that much of it, but it was... what I saw of it was funny. But go on.
So, he does, like... it goes over all the generic things that happen, when you're at home, like... a salesman coming to the door, that kind of thing. And the salesman walks in, he sees this guy in a apron with like a teddy bear on it, covered in blood, holding a knife. He was like, I was just making dinner.
Somehow, like, the idea of having a Yakuza in this position sounds so much funnier.
It's very good, because he's not an idiot. It's very clear, he's a very intelligent guy. But it's like he's found like a new religion kind of thing where he's like doesn't want to fight people. I mean, that being said, he does still like punch people through windows and stuff on occasion when like one of his ex-gang members comes up to him and he's like, "Oh, where have you been, boss? We need you. Why did you give up on the Yakuza way?" And the ex-boss like takes him to a cooking session with a bunch of old ladies, and he's like making potato croquets, and the guy's like, fuck this shit," and slaps the food onto the floor, and so house husband like smashes him out the side of the building. God, it's very funny. I feel like I've seen... I mean, honestly, it sounds like something I really do want to watch. I feel like I've seen that sort of a premise in... God, a few different, like, pieces of media coming out of Japan. Yeah.
God, I can't remember.
I think it did a reference to Food Wars as well.
Did it, actually?
Yeah, like, a slight one, because, like, the salesman, he was, like, selling knives, and so the Yakuza guy was like, let's see your wares, kind of thing. And he makes like a meal, and the dude sits down, like the salesman has like a bite to eat, and it does the whole reminds me of my childhood, and he's like drifting off in such an airy, floaty way, kind of thing.
God, I do like that. God, I really wish I could think of the movie or the show I'm thinking of. Like that this is reminding me of the idea of doing that sort of juxtaposition where you have somebody who's like clearly from this gritty, violent background, and they're suddenly thrust into a more like normal, mundane, kind of chill environment, like essentially a domestic environment. But they're still using those old skills every now and again. To just like to take advantage, or not to take advantage of, but to
improve, yeah.
To essentially like solve problems. Oh, you know what I'm thinking of is Kindergarten Cop.
Yeah. I guess
I'm
it
thinking
has
of kindergarten
kind of those vibes, yeah.
because it's the same sort of vibe. It's this cop who's used to operating in the mean streets of LA, and now suddenly he's in a kindergarten. And so, like, you remember the scene where, like, the kid, like, has an abusive dad.
Yeah.
Like, you know, he doesn't try to talk to him. He doesn't try to, like, oh, you shouldn't be doing this. I'm going to report you to the police. He just punches him in the fucking stomach.
Yeah. I mean, maybe in America. I don't think our police would do that.
Well, yeah. But your police aren't even allowed to have guns.
Mm-hmm. Well, from what?
Yeah, but they need to be special ones.
Special. Yep.
You can argue whether that's good or bad, but at least you know that they're actually going to get shit done.
But yeah, so I'm gonna make you watch that.
Yeah, that
tonight.
maybe wasn't that probably wasn't a good direction to go.
I'll make you watch that tonight with Alicia because I think she'll fucking love it as well.
All right, cool. D&D looks like it's going to get canceled tonight too, so
okay.
I'll have time.
Okay.
Well, no, it's because Duncan's doing housework and Kevin and Jake they're getting their vaccines.
Ooh. When are you getting your vaccine?
I'm not.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
I'm 30 and I'm healthy. Why the fuck would I get one?
Uh-huh.
I mean, they work in they're in a school, and so they're constantly like around a ton of people, so it makes sense for them to get them.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Anyway, but yeah, so that I was just thinking of another. Oh God, I lost it. That reminded me of something else.
Uh.
God, but I do like that juxtaposition of the. Oh, this was so many podcasts ago, but you remember that show Lucian that I was watching, or Lucius?
Yeah.
Lucifer.
I knew what you were talking about.
Yeah. It's the same sort of thing where you take somebody who is out of place and you kind of insert them into an environment that doesn't necessarily make sense for them. So in those shows, it was you take the devil and you insert him into a police force.
Mm.
And it was just... That's an interesting storytelling trope that I actually really, really like. Where you take somebody who has no business being there, or who has some very different and unique perspective, and then throwing him into an environment where it's not necessarily where that person is supposed to be.
Yeah, kind of like almost like a Louis Theroux thing, where it's like he's clearly represents the sanity and normality of every person on the planet, but he's going to places where people are just batshit insane.
Yeah, that sort of thing. I think that's a very valuable storytelling method, or even just like I use this word quite a bit, and I still fucking love it. Juxtaposition. It's a very, very powerful tool where you put two diametrically different things next to each other, and then you can really see how they're different.
Yeah.
I think
like
it's
us.
a good critical thinking tool. Why do you think that, this podcast... We've talked about this on the podcast before.
Yeah.
This is one of the reasons that I think that we make good co-hosts for this sort of thing, is that
we quite often...
we're not the same. We don't agree on everything, and we have very different views. So it's a lot of fun to just chat.
Yeah. God, do you remember that conversation about the end of the world button that we had? You got so mad at me about that. Sorry, anyway, that was very much tangent, and we shouldn't go down that route.
We probably shouldn't, but still, but that's the point.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you know what? This is the media segment, but I'm going to take a tangent from a tangent.
Right.
This isn't media. I think, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately, because I've been, I have other friends that I talk about, like, very contentious topics with. You as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think, like, the sign of a really, really good friend is somebody that you can talk to about things that you fundamentally disagree on.
Yeah.
And you can get into a heated argument, but at the end of the day, like, you're still friends after that.
There's so many things that I could say, but I can't say because we're on like a social media platform.
I mean, do you disagree with that point?
No, I don't at all. I was just about to make a joke about the bad people from World War Two.
The bad guys. Thank you, YouTube, for making us using comic book
the
language.
naughty boys.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Which, hey, might be a thing we reference back to in segment 3.
Oh, God. Well, we'll see. Segment 3 is going to be a very experimental segment 3.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be trying a couple of new things. But
so anyway, so we're kind of waffling because
have you got another media topic, or shall I fire another one?
I do.
Okay.
I have one more.
Sweet, go for it.
And this will probably end us off. And it's more of a sneak preview because I haven't finished the book yet. But I have been continuing to read the book Brave New World.
Yeah.
Which I've talked about in the previous 2 podcasts. The book is taking a look at what a purely scientific perspective or purely scientific society would look like. Which, again, ties into segment 1. Essentially, they've taken all sort of ethical and moral considerations away, and so the society is purely based on science. And I'm about 2/3 of the way through the book.
Does it bring up stuff like abortion?
No, not even abortion is just considered... It's not even abortion. Like, people aren't allowed to get pregnant.
Oh.
So the way that... In this world, the way that human beings
test
are...
tube babies.
It's all test tube babies.
Gotcha.
And not only that, it's test tube twins. They use a technique to breed batches of, like, 78 twins.
Right. Some cloning.
And then, depending on the cast that they need... So, like, we need some minors. So minors don't need to be intelligent, but they need to be strong. So they introduce them to hormones, but they also introduce, like, alcohol so that they have less developed brains in embryo before they're actually...
It's more of like a robotic human race then, because obviously there would be no need to breed rich people.
Well, but they not rich people, but they breed what they call alphas, and the alphas are the people who have
leaders,
perfect, like very, very high level intelligence, but their physical abilities aren't necessarily that good.
Okay.
So they like there's people like the gammas and the deltas, and they're probably very strong, but pretty dumb. And so they use chemicals that are introduced in utero to change how they're going to develop. And so they'll breed them in batches, like, oh, this mine in Venezuela needs, like, 10,000 workers. So they breed, like, a few batches of workers who have, like, low intelligence but high strength.
Don't they have to then wait, like, 25 years?
They do, but that's part of the story too. Is they've developed it's all part of the supply chain. Like right now we have enough workers, but these workers are going to die in 10 years. So they've engineered the human body so they stay perfectly healthy from the age of 18 to 60, and they're perfectly healthy, perfectly capable of doing work. But the moment they hit 60, they die instantly.
Okay.
And so they know that all of these humans that are minors, they're going to die at this age. They're going to expire.
So their batteries
is the word
people.
Exactly. So essentially, it is a perfectly scientific society. It is very efficient. The people are they want for nothing during those times in their lives, and they are bred perfectly for the services that they are rendering.
What's the end
But it's
goal?
also a very... Sorry?
What's the end goal? The end
There
goal.
really isn't.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. I haven't reached the end of the book yet. They haven't gotten to that point. The characters in the book right now, there's one that I'm reading through who's just starting to realize, like,
self-awareness.
that
Shit.
realizing the flaws in the society, essentially.
Right. I assume there's like rebel outcroppings who don't believe or something.
There aren't, actually.
Oh.
At least none that have been revealed or talked about so far in the book. There might be.
Okay.
But this kind of ties back into what I was saying earlier, is that science can tell you what is, but it can never tell you what you should do.
Okay. I mean, this...
And so,
Sorry.
when I say this is a purely scientific society, I think that really matches this, is that all of these people know what is. They know what the most efficient way to do things are. They know exactly what will make them happy, but they don't know what they should do. The society is kind of aimless, if that makes sense.
This reminds me a lot, talking about juxtaposition, this is the polar opposite of the Ben Elton book I keep going on about. Like, it is the polar opposite. So this is all about what if science essentially ruled mankind.
Yeah.
The one that I've talked about before, and I'll look it up afterwards again, is all about if religion became controlled civilization.
Pure moral thought versus pure scientific thought.
Yeah. So, I don't know. It's similar in many ways, because in some ways the two extremes can also have very similar outlooks, right?
Yeah, that's the premise behind horseshoe theory.
But at the same time, they're also very, very different in certain ways of going about living. Like you said, that they don't have human reproduction, right?
They don't, but people are very sexually active. But it's considered a common social thing that, like, people are very sexually active, but they don't pair off.
Yeah.
With each other. It's just like, it's like, oh, I'm gonna bang Tom today. I'm gonna bang Jane tomorrow. I'm gonna do this, that sort of thing. But they're not allowed to reproduce. It's just considered normal part of life to take contraceptives, because all reproduction is done in these artificial decanting tanks.
Mm. Yeah. Okay.
Anyway.
There's so many things I can't talk about, but shit. Again, I think it's gonna have to be one of those things where I'm gonna be like, right, read this book, and then we can talk about it.
Okay. Well, I mean, we have. I'd like to expand our book reading beyond dinosaur spiciness.
Yes, that is true. Oh man,
that's one of the reasons that I've been talking about this book, is because I feel like it's actually something really interesting that is not just taco making.
Indeed. What was the book called again?
A Brave New World.
Brave New World. Okay. If I'll get it on Audible and give it a read.
I think it might. If you have an Audible account, I think it's actually free.
Oh really? Why is it free?
I don't know. I think it's one of those, like Amazon. It's older. Like the book is almost. I think it's 90 years old at this point.
That shouldn't make a difference.
But take a look.
If you have a Amazon,
I have an Audible copy and I got it for free.
Did you spend a token on it though?
No, I did not.
Okay. By Huxley something.
Yeah, it's Aldous Huxley, I think. But it's pretty good. The book
#1 bestseller in genetic engineering fiction.
Why is that a genre? Oh my god! But yeah, no. So I've been reading the physical copy. I prefer to read actual books, if I have the option.
Yeah.
There's some things I like going through audiobook for. But yeah, no, I downloaded the audiobook too, originally intending to do it that way, but when I did, it was like, oh, it's free. And it didn't charge me a token. It was just like, oh, it's free with Audible. But that might just be a US thing. If it is, I think I can share the book with you. On Audible.
Unless we have a shared account, I don't think so.
No. It lets you... Sorry, guys. We're discussing the functionality of audiobooks right now. We'll talk about this in the. Yeah. We'll talk about it in the interim. But yeah, of those two, having talked about you were talking about that whole like moral society versus the purely scientific society.
It's
What are
not
your
really a moral. There we go.
well, not moral, but religious.
Yes.
I'm wondering what you think in terms of comparing and contrasting. Like, are they opposites or are they the same but just like with different perspectives? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
They're very similar in many ways, but where the science victory, as it were, I'm thinking in Civ terms now,
Yeah.
is to, it seems like, is to mine out the resources of the universe and discover everything there is to discover. The end goal of the book, the Ben Elton book, seems more like to profit and seize control over other people, kind of. And also, like, the media, it's like a media is hell, right? Like, the worst kind of media you can imagine. Everything you do in your life is recorded. All the important moments in your life are caught on media and shared to, like, if you imagine Facebook, where unless people give it a certain amount of upvotes, people are not going to like you as a person unless you have a good media score, kind of thing.
That's almost like a soft version of 1980. So I read 1984 about 2 years ago.
Right.
Actually, it might have been longer ago than that. I think it was like 2017 I finished it. But it was a similar thing where the TVs were always on and they were always recording. There was always a camera. There was always a microphone. And so you were always being watched, and that sort of influenced you to
act.
It enforced that kind of morality.
Yeah. By the way, I'm on Brave New World, the Audible page right now, and the first book that says people also who bought this also bought George Orwell's 1984.
Yeah.
That's the first
1984 is so far, having read the two books, and I haven't finished this one, so who knows how this one ends, but of the two, I think they're both dystopian futures. This one seems to be much more concerned with conveying a philosophy, whereas 1984 actually told a very compelling story. Like, this one's good, don't get me wrong, it is telling a good story, but there's a lot more in it that is... So, like, 1984 told a story, and that story had a piece of knowledge, a piece of philosophy woven through it. This one seems to be conveying a piece of philosophy and conveying an idea, and then weaving a story around that, if that makes sense.
I see.
So, like, the priorities seem different. I might change my mind as I go a little bit further in the book. Because, again, I've still got another, like, third of the book to go through. But, for the time being, that's been my impression.
Well, there we go.
Anyway. We're closing up on the end of segment 2. Do you have any final thoughts? Any little tidbits that you want to say before we end it off?
No, I think I'm good. I'm ready to go for segment 3, experimental.
Yeah, we've got a couple ideas for segment 3. This is going to be an interesting one. It's either going to be a miraculous success or an absolute disaster, but that is what makes it entertaining.
Yep.
Anyway, this is going to be the end of segment 2 of the TMCJ podcast. Thank you all for listening, and you will hear us again momentarily for segment 3. Welcome back to the TMCJ podcast. I fooled Blue this time by hesitating before I said the word go when we were hitting the record button, and he made his weird noise a little bit too early.
I always do it before the go. That was not fooling me. I always do it before that.
I'm sorry, a few times you've said it exactly when I said go.
Okay.
Maybe it's just the audio lag, but I've definitely heard it at the same time. Anyway, it's our wild card segment 3. We have a couple ideas this time around. Blue had a new idea, some new little mini game that we could play, and it's something that we're not quite sure is ready to take up a full segment. So what we're going to do is do a little bit of a test case for it, do a little bit of a short beta test. You guys can let us know what you think. And then beyond that, we are going to do a segment that we've wanted to separate out into its own thing for a while, and that is the whole UK versus US different, for a very similar culture.
So what we're essentially doing is early access. We'll accept all of your money now.
Yeah, we accept bitcoins and
and this time next week we'll be shut down.
Yeah, I mean, last week we talked about loot boxes, and then we realized, hey, that's profitable as shit. You better buy our segments.
Yeah, hell yeah, buy bingo card slots.
Oh my god! All right, come on. It was your idea. Introduce.
So. There's a certain creative aspect around the way that people can phrase just the simplest of sentences. So, for example, when we are on the podcast, we quite often change words to become friendly for the YouTube algorithm, so that anyone can listen to them and they don't get strikes or anything against them or anything. So, we have to change certain words that we mean to say into other words that are descriptive of that original value. And it can come out sounding quite funny, much like, I'm sure if any of you have listened to the dinosaur-related books, where we use tacos and fishing extensively to describe certain bodily processes. And yeah, so that's the point of this game. So we'll be giving ourselves a sentence, and we have to convert that sentence without saying any of the key words into synonyms of those words. And then we have to say the whole sentence, and the other person has 1 minute to decipher what it is we are actually talking about.
Yeah. Essentially to figure out the phrase within a certain margin of error.
Yes. So in the example, we were talking about a giving bananas to a monkey, and instead of saying bananas, it was curved yellow fruit, and instead of monkeys, it was devolved humans. Sorry for any religious people out there. And yeah, and then the other person has to guess what it is that we're actually talking about. I think that's a pretty good summation of the...
It is. Would you like me to go first, or would you like to go first?
Do you want to roll for it?
Sure, why not? Here, hold on, I got a d20.
Okay, I want 11 up.
11 up, okay. 13, you're first.
Boom. Alright. So, first sentence. Okay. So I'm going to work it out in my head, and then when I start talking, I will start a 1 minute timer.
Wait, before when you start talking and when you finish talking?
So let's do it when we finish talking.
Because because you could just talk longer and fuck me over.
Yeah, I guess.
I'm not
trying to fuck you over.
I know, yeah, not that I think you would do that, but come on. It depends on how long the sentence is, too. So let's do end of sentence, hit go.
Okay. This person doesn't need, but thinks looking after a animal that is reminiscent of a wide brown duck with a large nose. They think they needed one of them, but they had instead a smaller version of a goose and a stripy rat instead. Go.
The ugly duckling?
So I went through it as a sentence.
Oh shit, do I have to actually
They
Jeez.
wanted a fat brown duck thing. However, they got a small.
So they wanted a skunk. It was like
It's water based.
mongoose. Wait, no. Shit. Hold on.
This is a really hard.
This is a really fucking hard one. I honestly have no idea. Like, I know that you're probably talking about, like, you know, a duck or a swan or a goose or something like that, but then you're also talking about, like, a water-based thing, so like a beaver. Or Jesus.
Well, the second part, they got what instead?
A skunk.
3 seconds. No, okay, right, so. She wanted a pet platypus. I couldn't think of how to describe a platypus, right? I said a fat brown duck with a big nose.
Yeah, okay, that's a pretty good... I mean, honestly, that's what a platypus looks like.
But ended up getting a duck and a ferret instead.
Duck and a...
So that was the small goose, was the duck. I realised I'd said
Yeah.
duck earlier, but it wasn't.
No, that's really
respect.
good. Okay, so I chose much simpler sentences for
stripy
mine.
rat.
I feel like
Okay.
I was... All right, you might have a little bit of an easier time with the ones I chose.
Okay, right. Tell me when you're ready to start talking.
All right, here.
No, wait, you start talking.
I've got a
talking.
timer. I've got a timer.
Okay, cool.
So,
It's really hard.
it's inadvisable to walk on the remnants of bottles.
Don't step on broken glass?
Wow, that was easy. Yep, you got it.
Wow. Fucking nailed that one.
Yeah,
Get ready for
okay.
a really
Apparently
hard
that one was. I'm sorry. Apparently that one was really fucking easy. I was trying to like find things that would be relatively simple. Apparently I went a little bit too easy compared to you and your fucking duck platypus.
Honestly, if you thought the duck platypus was hard, the next one is gonna blow you away.
Jesus Christ! This is why we beta test these things.
Yeah.
All right, come on. Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
So, pre-context. This sentence does not really make any sense. But
Fuck.
here we go. The person had a concept that organic stationary objects produced very, very, very old creatures by tacoing. Go.
Okay. Man thinks that plants made dinosaurs?
BAM! He got it in 17 seconds!
Wait, really? Is that it?
He had a vague sense that trees gave birth to dinosaurs. Hell yeah!
Okay, so
Oh my god.
it should
I'm
be
amazed.
stated that my brain is not anywhere near, like, linear. Like, I I make wild conclusions just because I'm always trying to, you know, I don't know.
Bam. 1-1.
I can't believe I actually got that one, and I didn't get the other
Right?
one. Some of the first one I had no idea about, but that one somehow it worked.
Yeah. I guess I was... I don't know. Trees, I guess, are a bit easier to describe than a platypus, to be fair.
I mean, also, you were assuming you were talking to a regular human being and not a fucking moron. Okay.
Well.
So are you ready for the next one?
I am. I hope this one's a bit more of a challenge.
Okay.
Do you want to re-roll your sentence?
No. I have some backup ones. I
Okay.
actually chose... I have a list of 5, and I was choosing 2 from that list.
Right.
So I started off with the soft one.
Hmm.
Okay, so let me reset the timer. Vehicular protection programs progress, but the man tried his best to outsmart them.
So it's about car safety. A man tried to avoid going to a car safety seminar.
Nope.
Um, am I right on the car safety bit?
You are.
Okay. But man tried to ignore the teachings.
You're getting closer.
Or but man ignored all the signs. He was driving without insafely, even though he knew it.
That's pretty close. let me read you the sentence.
Okay.
And I fucked up because I actually used one of the words in the real sentence.
Right.
But it is, car safety systems have come a long way, but he was out to prove they could be outsmarted.
Right.
So the idea being is that they've done all these things, and this guy's just out there like, fuck you, I will be able to die in this car.
Oh, lovely.
It's, again, it was, like, I was, this is the other bit of this, is I fucked up in my description of it. Because I was...
Well, you can keep talking even when I'm guessing.
I could have, you're right. And which is why I kind of, like, gave you hints here and there, but my problem was that I fucked up in saying one of the words in the original sentence.
Right. Yeah. It's hard to switch off sometimes.
But yeah, beta test.
Yeah.
So that's as far as we wanted to go with that one, right?
Yeah, give a taster.
So, I mean, let us know what you guys thought of that, because that's something that maybe if we flesh it out a little bit more, play around with it a little bit more, try and, like, for the third segment, we're having a lot of fun with doing these sorts of, like, word games. The trivia, the long story short, the story time, like, it seems to be something that works out pretty well. So if you think this is something that has potential, we'll refine it, we'll get some work into it.
Yeah. But in the meantime,
to close out, the rest of segment 3, something that had been we've kind of done informally on quite a few podcasts that we wanted to turn into potentially a formal segment is the whole idea of UK versus US. Little cultural differences, phrase differences, different, changes.
Specifically today, we should be discussing English idioms.
English idioms. And before we get to that, I did want to, I feel like there's a story that's relevant to this. And as you said, I will not go too deep into the story, but this is something we've talked about quite a few times, is that in the UK, it's much less common for people to just talk to people they don't know. In the US, that is much less the case. Like, you commented on this when I was in the UK, was that I just talk to random people. And just strike up, like, a friendly conversation with them. And I noticed when I was over there, that kind of made them feel kind of uncomfortable. But, like, in the US, like, I went to the market earlier today. Like, there's a general store right across the street from me. I was over there and I was waiting in line. I was chatting with this guy, but it was just like, it was a random thing. Like, we were both waiting in line. He was telling me about himself. I was telling him about myself. We were talking about just random, stuff, shooting the shit. It's a normal thing in the US where you talk to people. Like, even if you don't have any idea who the fuck they are, unless they seem to be, like, kind of crazy. Maybe you try to avoid them in that case. But if they're just normal people, you talk to them.
Whereas I went to the store today, and I needed someone to come over and like check something for me. And I went cheers, and there was no response. And that's the norm.
Which is really, really weird. That seems so weird to me. Oh God! All right, well, hold on. You had something else. So that's the opening bit.
Yeah, I mean we could go anywhere with it. There's so many different like categories, so many different social aspects that differ between the two countries. But one thing that quite often pops up.
But before you go into that, I feel like I need to clarify that one of the reasons that makes this particular subject so interesting is the fact that our cultures are so similar, but there are these tiny things that are so different. Because the UK and the US culture, they originate from a very similar place, and that's like the Anglo-Saxon, like English common law kind of thing. But then when you actually get to the cultural bit, when you get to how like individual people interact with each other and how they talk, that's where you start to see these weird differences. Sorry, just had to throw that out there. Go on.
So essentially there's a bunch of phrases or idioms in English which English people, as a general thing, we just know what they mean because we've been brought up just hearing them. But over in America, a lot of people have never heard any of these phrases. Granted, Kaiser's probably heard quite a few of them from me over the last few years. So it's not only going to be a matter of working out what they could possibly mean, but also maybe trying to remember what they mean if I've used them before.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Yeah, I might have heard them, but I've only heard them from Blue. They're not something in common parlance here.
Or some of them maybe they are, and I don't know whether they are or not. So
we'll find out.
Okay, let's get into it. First one. If something is a dime a dozen, what is it?
That is definitely a phrase that is common in the U.S.
Yeah?
So, like, maybe not all across the U.S., but it is a phrase that I've heard my mother use for my entire life. So a dime a dozen means it's very, very common. It's something that you can find everywhere. It's like, you walk outside and like, what is it? So essentially when something is
you
very,
find a paperclip. Paperclips are a dime a dozen.
A paperclip's a dime a dozen. You walk outside and, somebody is like, oh, hey, I'm gonna sell you this. And you're like, it's a dime a dozen. I've seen that everywhere.
Yeah. Bam. Okay, you're right. How about biting the bullet?
Again, that is also a phrase. I don't know how common that phrase is in my region of the U.S. because I've only ever heard my mother say it. I know it's a common phrase in the Midwest, but essentially it's the same thing. Well, not the same thing. I mean, when I say it's the same thing, I mean it's common. Like, it basically just means, like, if you bite the bullet, you're like, you just got to get it done. It's like, it's something that's probably unpleasant. It's not going to go that well, but you bite the bullet, you get it done, just power through it.
Okay. I'm trying to find some more tough ones on this website, because I think a lot of these you might know then.
Yeah, a lot of these are fairly common in the U.S.
If you... No. That, again, you're going to know that. I feel like
that's
so basic for me. Like, you possibly know all of these. I'm not sure.
We'll find out. Like, a lot of these have been phrases that are common across both cultures.
Yeah. Oh. Okay, hang on. Burning bridges.
Definitely also a thing here.
Fuck.
You're getting fucked. This is the beta test segment. Burning bridges is essentially like there's actually a country song in the US called Burning Bridges. But there's burning bridges is essentially like you're cutting ties. You're slicing off a bit of your past. You're moving on. Um, burning bridges one by one.
By that logic, I assume you know what letting the cat out of the bag means.
I do.
Fuck.
God, you need to get some.
I need to write my own ones, because apparently these are all just, like, American-known ones.
Come on, pull it
There are
off
a
the
lot
top of your
them,
head.
though. One off the top of my head. Okay, what? What is a sarnie?
Right, see, right there. That's all. That's one right off the bat. I have no idea.
No?
No.
What do you think it is?
A Sani?
Yeah. Going to get a sarnie.
Going to get a Sani.
Yeah, I'm just, popping down the shops to get a sarnie.
I am going to take a guess that it's some kind of, like, street food.
Okay. Do you want to be any more specific, or do you just leave it as street food?
Some kind of street food. I'm going to guess it's some kind of a meat wrapped in, like, a bread thing.
Huh. Interesting. A sarnie is another word for sandwich.
Oh, okay. I was thinking of more like a taco or something like that, but okay.
Okay,
But yeah, no, I'd never heard that before.
If someone said to you, where's the clicker?
So this is something that people from the East Coast of the U.S. would be confused by.
Okay. But you know what it is.
But I know what it is because this is a common phrase in the Midwest.
Okay.
A clicker is like the remote control for a TV.
Okay.
So, like, this is something interesting because there are regional terms for things. My mother's from Iowa, so I grew up calling a remote a clicker. But everyone around me and everyone in my schools, and, all my friends, they all referred to it as a remote. Or they referred to it... Yeah, basically, they referred to it as a remote. But in the Midwest and in Iowa, they referred to it as a clicker. And so it was one of the... And it's because, like, I remember our very first TV remote actually it had a spring on the inside, so when you pressed the buttons, it made a click noise every time you pressed a button.
Yeah.
And that was the reason they called it that. So I know that. I'm not sure that everyone in the U.S. would know that.
I see. Okay. Probably a slightly tougher one now. Bob's your uncle.
So,
oh my god, do you know this one as well?
I don't know what it means, but
Okay.
I know the concept behind it. So I'm gonna guess as to what it means.
Okay.
But I'm gonna try to kind of like. So
you don't need to understand why it's a thing.
So, but the why it's a thing I think is interesting.
Okay.
So, I've heard that like in certain areas of the UK, in like British slang, they'll use words that kind of sound like the words they're trying to get across, and it'll just become that slang. So like it'll be like you go over there, you turn right, you go down the street, and then Bob's your uncle. It's sort of like
Bam. Yeah.
It's like an affirmation, and it doesn't mean anything. It just sounds like an affirmation.
Yeah, Bob's your uncle, kind of like, job's done. Job's a good one.
Okay.
That's
something.
I don't know why, but people say Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt, but that's a thing apparently.
I've heard it in movies before, and I just sort of like guessed that it was sort of like an affirmation.
Okay, this next one I want you to use in a sentence, right?
Okay.
Donkey's years.
Jesus, I have no idea about this one.
Yeah?
Donkey's ears or donkey's years?
Years.
Okay. Alright. The man went down to the pub, he had too much, and he came out with donkey's ears.
No.
I just assumed
Okay.
it was like, he felt older when he left.
Okay, so let's say, a reunion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you see something like, I haven't seen you in donkey's years. It's like a measurement of time. It's an obscure measurement of time It just means a very long time. I haven't seen you in ages, mate. It's
Okay,
been donkey's years.
Ages, eons, that sort of stuff. Yeah, you just say that sort of thing in
Yeah,
the U.S. You
just
wouldn't
a
say
generic long amount of time.
that. Okay, I'd never heard that one.
Bam. One you might like. Pardon my French.
This is one that is actually used in the U.S. as well.
Okay.
It essentially whenever you make a vulgar sound, like you belch, you fart. Pardon my French.
Well, yeah, I think more if you swear, I think.
In the U.S., it's used when you belch or fart.
Okay.
So it's actually not.
French.
So it's not even based on like swearing a lot of the time. Like you can use it then too, but a lot of the time you'll find people in the U.S. going like burping very loudly. Oh shit! Pardon my French. But again, I think we more and more these days, I'm thinking unfairly, have a negative image of the French.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've always had a negative image of the French over here because we've always been at war with them. Well, for a very long.
I think the U.S.
history.
probably should have maybe a positive image of that because I mean the French helped us in multiple wars. Like the French are the reason that we're independent from your ass.
Well, yeah, we're just independent. We're just independent from everyone now, aren't we? Okay, you ready for the next one?
Yep.
Where would you use a different kettle of fish?
Jesus Christ, I have no idea. This is one I've never heard of.
A different kettle of fish.
Maybe like if you're describing like topics that are unrelated.
Is that your answer?
Like for instance, it's like somebody says like, "Oh, but what about this?" And you're like, "That's a different kettle of fish."
Bam. Yep, exactly.
Is that it?
Referring to an alternative or a different thing altogether.
Okay, that was. I want to say that is not a phrase over here. That was 100% a guess. That was just a complete guess on my part.
What about cat got your tongue?
That is definitely a phrase over here too.
Oh, okay.
And it's essentially when you're hesitant to answer something, and somebody's pressing you for an answer. So like, it's just like, oh, what? Cat got your tongue?
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Straight through that one. How would you use the?
Sorry. Can I stop right here? Like, it's very interesting how many of these phrases are common. Like, I was thinking that we would go into this segment and find like a bunch of things that were different, but we're actually.
I mean, there are hundreds of them.
Yeah, well, we are finding things that are different, but we're also finding quite a few things that are in common.
Yeah.
I think that's a very positive message. Anyway, go on.
If something is hang on, a better way of phrasing it. So to go pear-shaped.
You're talking about a woman who's very voluptuous in her lower half.
No.
Oh, that's what it means to say pear-shaped in the U.S.
Do you want to hazard a guess as to what something being pear-shaped is over here?
No.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Let me think about it. I don't know. Bottom heavy.
So if so to use it in a sentence here, you would say like, we were out last night, but when it hit 11 p.m. things started to go pear-shaped.
Oh, okay.
Things started to go wrong. Things went wrong.
Interesting. So in the U.S., when you're talking about pear-shaped, you're talking about a woman. You're talking about somebody who is very well endowed in her lower half. Which, again, not a negative thing. I personally I happen to like that.
Anyway.
Go on. But no, but But it's interesting how those two things are different. Fanny is another one that I find hilarious because we've talked about that phrase before. That means something very different between the US and the UK.
One that you don't really often hear, but it is a thing. A damp squib.
Squib? Like ending with a B?
Yes.
Sorry, that long pause there was me just looking confused. I've never heard that phrase before, period.
If something is a damp squib.
I'm going to say it's somebody who is just not reliable.
Okay, it's something that fails to meet expectations. It's anticlimactic.
Oh, okay.
Bit of a damp squib.
I was in the right direction, but I was thinking of a person. Okay. That's interesting. Okay, so something that isn't reliable. Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay, how about... I don't know. I feel like this one's too obvious. Just tell me if you know it or not, and we'll just move straight on.
Okay.
Cold turkey.
Yep, definitely. I know that one.
Cool.
It's quitting something right off.
Yeah. If you give someone stick.
Can I say that on YouTube?
Stick. Not anything else.
I mean, honestly,
It's nothing that people can't hear.
So in the UK, maybe not, but in the US, literally that is that.
Not give someone the stick.
Yeah.
It is just...
I'm saying it means that in the US.
Okay. If you're giving someone stick in the UK, it means you're criticizing or mocking them.
Interesting.
Giving them stick about something.
Interesting. Okay, it does not mean that here.
Ooh. I assume you know what Thick of Thieves is? As Thieves is? Sorry?
Yeah, I do. I do indeed.
Okay.
Someone, a few friends being conspiratorial, as it were. Yeah, they'll cover for each other.
Yeah, you share each other's confidences.
Exactly. You're all confidants amongst each other. Let's do two more of these, and then we should probably wrap up.
Okay. Okay, I think that's probably too common, that one. You've heard of pot called and kettle black?
Yes.
Okay. Alright, two more from the top of my head. What's a... how do you use the word jiffy?
Jiffy? Like, something getting done very quickly.
Okay. Yep, well done. So you'd be like back in a jiffy.
Yeah, essentially like, I'll get it done in a jiffy.
God, I can't think of a last one now.
Well, hold on. What if I actually what if I try to think of one?
What, you think of one that I might not know?
Yeah, think of something in the US that you might not actually know.
Okay.
Waffle
Stone
for
the
me.
Crows?
Yeah, waffle for me for a second until you...
Okay.
Sorry, what'd you say?
Stone the Crows.
I have no idea what that means.
Okay. Wanna try and guess where it would be used?
I mean, where it would be used? Shit. Maybe around people who are trying to... I don't know. Somebody has died and there are people who are kind of circling them like buzzards. You kind of stone the crows, get them around. Is that not it? What is it?
So, if you say stone, it's more of an exclamation. It's like, oh, stone the crows, that was... Oh my gosh. It's like, oh my goodness kind of thing. You say stone the crows.
Okay, so it's not a... Okay. I was thinking of something much more insidious. So it's
no.
actually
It's just like
just an exclamation.
blow me down kind of thing. Yeah.
All right. All right. I got one from the U.S. and then we'll end it off.
Okay.
Putting lipstick on a pig.
That sounds really mean. I'm gonna say it's like trying to, like trying to make yourself beautiful, but essentially you are. Sounds really mean. Essentially, you are like not. You can't polish a turd, kind of thing.
I'll save you there. It's not necessarily referring to a person, but
Okay.
essentially in the U.S. colloquialism,
Okay.
putting lipstick on a pig means that like if something is ugly, it doesn't matter if it's a building, road, car, person, whatever.
Okay.
If people try to make it look better, but it's still ugly, that's what they mean.
Got it.
So,
okay.
like, talking about, like, so you build a new building, and it's like, wow, that building looks like shit. And so they start to put little bits on it to try and make it look fancier and make it look better. We'd say, you're putting lipstick on a pig.
Gotcha. Okay. Also, I like how I accidentally used an idiom while I was trying to get the answer.
That is the fascination and interesting bit of the English language, is that we can euphemism stack.
Yeah. I assume you've heard of "you can't polish a turd."
I have, yeah. I've heard that phrase before too.
Ugh, man.
Honestly,
well, next time I think I need to make a list beforehand.
Yeah, well, so this was our beta test segment. We tried out two very different things here, and we messed around with them, and we in equal parts failed and succeeded. I think that either of these have the potential of actually being something interesting. But people who are listening, tell us, do you think that one or more of these segments are something that we could actually push a little bit further? And
are they both bollocks?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if they're both shit, then we'll just go back to talking about random nonsense.
We'll go back to dinosaur porn. No.
Jesus Christ. You're right. Yeah, but seriously, let us know. Any final thoughts before I close this out?
No.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening to the TMCJ podcast. This is going to be the end of the episode 37. Please tune in again soon. We love hearing you. And hopefully you'll give us some feedback on these segments.
Have a fandabby-dozy week.